kind of curious, Kevin, if you feel Harrison may not have been prepared for building a team and being the guy that's like, look, I know talent, but maybe connections were important to Mark Cuban because Mark Cuban didn't have any. And Donnie was a guy that had a little bit of both, right? Donnie Nelson was a guy that had connections, deep ties with old school NBA, and also he had the eye for talent. Now, Nico, maybe he does have some connections that he can kind of draw from to help make some of these things go through. He just doesn't have the eye for talent to build an entire roster. And I do wonder if some other, help around him can help him with that. But I've genuinely liked Nico Harrison, looking forward to talking to him tomorrow. I've genuinely enjoyed our conversations with him so far, and I hope that whatever they get looks like a big win for him tonight.
I have a terrible feeling that I'm going to end up looking like a chump tomorrow or feel like a chump. But right now, at least one more time, I'm still willing to give the Mavs the benefit of the doubt and say I am hoping that I will feel better about this roster in another 24 hours. If you ask me what logic that is based on, that's a great follow-up question. I don't have a good answer for you there. I've just heard enough about a variety of deals that I'm hoping the Mavericks can make a savvy move in addition to getting a usable player with their draft pick.
Like how you trade Marcus Smart, get Porzingis,
And
get two first-round picks.
That's the Marcus Smart trade, not the KP trade.
What in the world? How did they, good job, Boston. Even though I do think, in a way, Boston's going to go down the path of the Mavs and go, God, it just looks so good on a piece of paper.
And did you see last night, so many people were trying to say that Shams is saying Kyrie is interested in going back to Boston. And I'm like, neat. How do Tatum, how did Tatum and Brown feel about that?
Right. I think I don't know. We'll find out. But I think Kyrie's trying to draw up interest from other teams just to make the Mavericks add more money to the deal, right? It looks like there's not a team interested in bringing in Kyrie for $30+ million. So then, the Mavs will be out there by themselves. I wish I felt hopeful. I just have a bad feeling about this. I just think we're going to get to tonight at whatever time, 11 p.m., the Mavericks have added Derek Lively at number 10, and that's it. And we're going to go, crap, that's it. It's over. You didn't win the lottery. You got the 10th pick. You got a super-duper project big guy who maybe it'll work out in a couple of years. Maybe he will really help the team, but I don't think he can help it all next year, and then you're going to re-sign. It goes into the next week. Then you're going to re-sign Kyrie. Fine. You're going to re-sign Dwight Powell to a 2-year, $10 million deal, like $5 a year. And you're going to be like, so we're bringing back the same team and we got a project center we're hoping works out at some point. And that's what I feel like is going to happen. And maybe with that low of an expectation, I will be pleasantly surprised because at this point you're setting yourself up, Kevin, for major disappointment.
For sure.
I guess I'm setting myself up for, hey, I can't believe they pulled that off. Because at this point, I feel like there's a good chance. And when I say good, I won't go that high. There's a 30% chance that the Mavericks are picking top 10 again next year.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Because
I think nothing works out. And they bring back their team's going to be Luka, Kyrie, and the rest of these guys that they had last year. And I don't see how that works out.
That does seem like, and I don't want to get too caught up on this because I know this is not really the point of this segment, but that seems kind of like a damning indictment of Luka and Kyrie right there. If you have those two and you're still one of the worst teams in the NBA, doesn't it?
Yeah, I just don't think they're going to mesh well.
Okay.
I think we're going to keep wondering about it should work better than this, right? And we should get rebounds and we should play defense. I do
wonder. And I was kind of having that discussion with Kevin, maybe off air, was like if you're going to have a dude play with those two guys, that his focal point is Tyson Chandler type. I funnel their offense to me,
sure,
and I will stand here and collect every rebound and get us and keep us in games. You have to change the game up a little bit. You can't run into the season the same way you ran into last year. And then by the time the Kyrie thing happened, they were like, we haven't quite figured out how to use both of these best. You would presume that and hope that Jason Kidd and company can come up with a better plan and a full camp off season to work on. You would hope that they can. After the way things fell apart last year, there's not a lot of hope right now. But that would be like, that's the ultimate dream is, and also, Kevin, that guy has to make the decision that I'm not going to be a scoring star on this team. My job is I get rebounds, those guys score. I never get the benefit from this. I have to be happy with whatever I get. If I get a trailing dunk, then that's what I get out of this. But I'm not going to be a star. I'm just going to be a dude.
Yeah, I hope that's the case because it's going to be a team built around Luka and Kyrie, and I think that's a challenge for Nico / Mark Cuban. And if they just pick at 10 and the 9 guys that are supposedly going to go in front of you go, you're down to Derek Lively, Grady Dick, Cason Wallace. You know, you're kind of down to certain guys where you're like, don't love our pick of guys here. And that's why I think that I'm really hoping somebody falls that maybe you're not expecting to be there at 10, because I just think the Mavs are going to run into teams aren't as excited to get to 10 as they were maybe hoping they were.
And there's a variety of questions coming in for the 214. I thought we didn't have next year's pick. Well, that is, unfortunately, that would be a sad part of, you do keep the pick if you're once again
same
really
it's all the same scenario.
Really
so if you're wondering about the first round pick going to the Knicks, it's all the same protections, top 10 protected. So if the Mavericks are sitting there with 5 games to go with the 10th worst record in the NBA, they will probably go for the 10th worst record in the NBA.
And then where does Anthony Black go in this draft? My best guess would be 6, although I have to admit, in addition to talking about the potential slide of Cam Whitmore, which I'm really interested in, I am epically fascinated in where the Thompson twins go. And like seeing what G League people, what Ignite, Overtime Elite, what all the different levels and teams start to create as an NBA product going forward. So I'm really curious about that. But my guess right now would be 6 is where Anthony Black goes.
Okay.
Now, the combo question with this then is,
will you be listening to the Get Right tonight?
I definitely will be listening to the Get Right, because I will tell you, not that they have to do the show the exact same way that we have, is it almost turned into at times kind of like a fun NBA draft show as well. Is a week from tomorrow is when free agency really starts. Now, like I said before, I know there's a weird moratorium, and they're like, hey, you can sign like in a little bit. But for all intents and purposes, free agency is a week from tomorrow. And so that's the next part of the question.
It is a 100-meter sprint. If you forget, this is, by the time it starts, it is finished.
Yes, pretty much. And I think that's one of the reasons they changed it to 5 p.m. now Central, or 6 p.m. Eastern if you like, because it used to be midnight Eastern, and then you had to pretend like all those deals really got hatched at 12:01. Now you can just be like, I mean, look, 6:01 is a totally normal time to be doing regular people business.
If you're not hearing something within the first 5 hours, are you pretty much like, nothing's going to happen?
I think we're taking the bargain bin.
First 3 hours.
Yeah, you go into the Monte Ellis situation.
Yeah.
Now, the Mavericks don't have much money.
Especially assuming Kyrie's back.
So, I mean, you're very limited. But the sign and trade situation, if the Mavericks next week, when free agency starts, if they don't have a sign and trade in place right now today that we just don't know about, and nobody's, then you get to, you're like, oh, maybe 2 days after free agency starts, they'll have a sign and trade in place for Grant Williams or for Harrison Barnes or whatever. No, it's all happening right now. That's all getting, probably as soon as this draft is over, all the free agents will know where they're going for the most part.
From the 972, Draymond, Middleton as free agent signings. So look, if you bring back Kyrie, which it looks like that's the direction this is going, although to be fair with Kyrie, you never quite know for sure.
Yeah.
My assumption is that he's going to be back, and if he is, you're 1,000,000% out of that ball game. I know Draymond's preference is to go back to the Warriors, and supposedly they're working on that. And Chris Middleton just opted out last night. So I have to admit, I do not know if him and his agent's preference is for him to just go back to Milwaukee.
I will say this to the casual basketball fan. The rules do get confusing. They're even confusing, but I've been following it forever, and there's a new CBA. But people sometimes say, no, you have $20 million to spend. You spend that 20, then you re-sign Kyrie. It doesn't work that way. Kyrie has, he has a cap hold at like $38 million or $40 million. If you sign a dude at $20 million, you lose all of his rights, and now you only have money and you don't have any money. So you don't have any free agent money unless you say, we are not bringing Kyrie back.
Have you read the entire CBA?
No, and thank God I didn't, because however Mark Cuban read it was the most wrong thing he's ever read in his life.
He read it backwards. That's the problem. That was the problem, Kevin.
From the 972, I will feel great if they keep pick number 10 and take on John Collins for another lottery pick. In all the trade scenarios I heard is, it was not taking John Collins for their pick. It was a pick swap that moved John Collins on down the road. But they said that would be an A+. Hell yeah! If we end up somehow getting John Collins out of this and keeping the number 10 pick, I feel like I'll be pretty stoked about that.
Things that I don't think are going to happen, but would be dream scenarios for me as a Maverick fan. One, you trade for DeAndre Ayton tonight, and you don't even have to give up the 10th pick. You trade Tim Hardaway Jr., JaVale McGee, and let's just say Reggie Bullock. You trade those three guys and you get DeAndre Ayton, and you're picking 10th still. Now I don't have to take Derek Lively. Now I can look way more at wing situations, and that would be great.
Throwing in one of your youngsters to make that deal happen?
Josh Green, yes.
Okay, but Hardy, no?
I don't really want to. Okay. Next scenario, you trade back to 15 and you get Clint Capella. So now I have a veteran big guy who I know can grab 12 rebounds a game on a pretty consistent basis in the NBA, protect the paint, and dunk the basketball when Luka gives him dunks. And then you pick at 15. Now you pick somebody at 15. So you've added Clint Capella. You've probably dumped Davis Bertans on Atlanta, and you've dropped back 5 spots. Those sound like things that would be really fun tonight to happen. Is that we pick up a center, a veteran guy who you know can play in this league, and you still have a pick. And you might have dumped some players that are somewhat... Look, I get it. Tim Hardaway Jr. can get hot. Phoenix doesn't see him as worthless. I see him as worthless on the Dallas Mavericks. Pathetic at defense, doesn't want to play defense, and wants 30 shots a game. How does that work with Luka and Kyrie? Two guys that don't play good defense or don't want to play defense, and that they need about 20 shots a game to be very successful. And I don't know how Tim Hardaway Jr. would work in Phoenix, but maybe they're dumb enough to think that he would be a really good teammate and just shoot the ball 7 to 12 times and play really good defense for them. And maybe he will.